Continuing with B is for brave Unitarians, here are the Blackwells, a suffragist dynasty. Elizabeth Blackwell was the first woman to graduate from a modern medical school. She was converted to Unitarianism by Ellery Channing in her late teens, though she attended many liberal denominations in her adult life. Her sister Emily Blackwell followed in her footsteps in both medicine and religion. Antoinette Brown Blackwell married their brother, Samuel. She was the first woman ordained in America as a Protestant minister. Her denomination was called Liberal Congregationalist, but she led many services for Unitarian congregations. Lucy Stone married another Blackwell brother, Henry, but I can't count Lucy as a B. She kept her maiden name, one of the first modern women to do so. I can't count Henry either, actually, because Henry was not Unitarian, though he was liberal and a feminist supporter. He was one founder of the Republican Party back when it was the party of Abraham Lincoln. Henry and Lucy's daughter, Alice Stone Blackwell, was a Unitarian and a feminist reformer in her own right. Barbara Smith Bodichon was a suffragist in England. She was born out of wedlock, but her wealthy Unitarian father stood by her mother. Barbara was cared for even after her mother died of tuberculosis. Smith was her father's name. Leigh was the alias her mother used while raising the family, and Dr. Eugene Bodichon became Barbara's Algerian husband. In 1854, she published Brief Summary in Plain Language of the Most Important Laws Concerning Women. That brief summary, of course, showed that women had almost no rights. It helped passage of the Married Women's Property Act 1882, which finally allowed married women to own property. Barbara also spent time and money to help found Girton College, Cambridge, and she was an accomplished watercolorist. John Quincy Adams Brackett was a graduate of Harvard and a governor of Massachusetts. He championed and signed the legislation that established the cooperative banks in Massachusetts. I looked for a way to underline the importance of this man, and I came up with Jimmy Stewart as George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. You remember how George stood up to Lionel Barrymore as Mr. Potter and defied big banking? How every working family could buy their own house, and they didn't have to rename the town Pottersville and drink hard liquor in cheap bars all night. How everyone got to join the middle class. Well, that is cooperative banking, and this is the man who started it for Massachusetts and the United States. Maria Baldwin, I don't have a lot about her, but she was America's first Black female school principal, and it was at a white school too. Harriet Stanton Blatch was the daughter of superstar suffragist Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and she grew up in the movement. I must say she was scared and resentful of Susan B. Anthony. Susan really didn't smile that often, and she once spanked one of Harriet's brothers. Whenever Susan came by, Elizabeth would ignore her kids to take care of business. But that didn't stop Harriet from growing into a lovely woman and a good mother. Her daughter Nora also followed in the suffrage movement, as well as being a civil engineer and an architect. Elizabeth Stanton and Susan Anthony led the National Woman Suffrage Association, the NWSA. They had a feud going with the Blackwell clan and their supporters, who formed the American Woman Suffrage Association, the AWSA. The feud had roots in a perceived betrayal that women were not enfranchised at the same time as Black men. But also the groups disagreed on strategy. The AWSA fought for state elections and the NWSA for national elections. Well, when Stanton and Anthony wrote a history of the women's movement, Harriet insisted on writing a 100-page chapter praising the AWSA. and it reconciled the two organizations. They emerged in 1890 to form the NAWSA under Anthony's leadership. Membership eventually grew from 7,000 members to 2 million, making it the largest volunteer organization in America. Ironically, though, Harriet formed a competing organization in 1907. She thought the NAWSA was too upscale, working through wealthy women's clubs. Her Equality League of Self-Supporting Women was aimed at the middle and working classes. Harriet used parades and open-air rallies. She believed that people are moved more by emotions than logic, a lesson that I wish modern politicians had not learned so well. Harriet also contributed to the suffrage movement in England, where she lived with her husband for 20 years. She lived the feminist dream, pursuing science and politics, while her wealthy husband was a house husband, supporting her and the kids at home. In closing, I want to protest that this on the left is the Harriet picture most seen on the internet. Old, with an out-of-fashion hat and a sour look. There is a tradition, not quite gone today, of painting feminists as unfeminine. And just to remind you, that is not the only way to see this woman.